All right, so here's the Maryland first-time buyer program that you can use to essentially get yourself a 0% down payment on closing. There's a lot of options to use in this program, so there's likely something here that can work for you really well if you qualify. And like in other states, you can even get some, most, or all of your closing costs paid for on this, and this is all without being a veteran. All right, so in this video, I'm going to show you all you need to know about it, and even show you the math of how much you'd need to bring to closing or not for a sample purchase price. Because without this program, you would typically have to save 3 or 3.5% minimum for a down payment, and that's before accounting for another 3% or so in closing costs and prepaids. So without seller help, you could need to save about 6 or 7% of the purchase price to buy a house. Now in 2023, you can buy a home worth up to about $748,000 with this program. That number usually increases every year, but that's what it is for 2023. There's now a few different ways you can do this program. All right, number one is $6,000 for the down payment and closing costs. Then if you want more, you can get 3% to 5% worth of the main loan amount towards the down payment and closing costs. The next is Home Start, where if you make less than 50% of the area median income, you can get 6% of the main loan amount instead of 5%. Okay, then there's Smart Buy, which can pay off student debt. Your credit score must be at least 720 for this, and you must be a first-time buyer. The student debt cannot be over $50K. The debt is forgiven. Student loan debt is forgiven at 20% per year. So if your student debt being paid off is $50K, then once you have the house for a year, 20% or $10K of that is forgiven and $40K of the $50K is left. Then after 2 years, $20K is forgiven and $30K is left. And then if you sell the home within 5 years of buying, then whatever's left on that loan is due back upon sale. Finally, there's HomeAbility, which is for first-timers with a disability. They can get 10% of the sale price in assistance. All right, now let's take a look at the closing day numbers for this program. For the main ones, the 3% and 5% assistance programs with a $375,000 purchase price. Okay, so if you're going to do an FHA loan, the minimum is 3.5% down. That would mean about $13,000 on your down payment and $13K roughly for closing costs and prepaids. So that's 26 and change total. That's not using the Maryland mortgage program. Then a 3% down conventional loan would mean roughly $11,000 down. Same for closing costs. That's then 24 and change total, also without using the Maryland mortgage program. And then if you're going to get the 3% assistance option on a conventional loan, it would bring your total on closing day from 24 and change to roughly 13 and change. And then the 5% assistance option on a conventional loan can bring your total from 24 change just to 6 and change. And that's before you take into account the fact that your agent can negotiate with the seller to pay for some of those closing costs. So let's say we got that. Let's say the seller was willing to pay for 1.5% of the purchase price for your closing costs. So that would be another roughly $5,600. So you'd only need a little over $8,000 on closing day for the 3% assistance option, and only, not even $1,000 for the 5% assistance loan option. And then if your agent negotiated to get you 3% or roughly $11,000 in closing costs help, it would mean you would bring the 3% assistance loan option down to only $2,500 roughly on closing day, and then you wouldn't have to then bring anything if you were going to get the 5% assistance loan option. So at that point, closing's paid for. And you might even qualify for a further first-time buyer credit towards the government closing costs and break that down to zero. So with help from the state and your agent getting the sellers to pay for a little of your closing costs towards closing, you could bring nothing. Okay, and this happens sometimes. Now, you'd usually have to offer to increase the purchase price to get the sellers to help with closing costs, but the increase in your payment resulting from that purchase price increase is usually marginal. And with all this stuff, this is why the Maryland Mortgage Program is so successful and popular and effective. Now for some very important side points here, you don't have to be a first-time buyer to get this. Repeat buyers can get up to 3% of the loan amount in assistance, whereas first-time buyers can get up to 5%. Then first-timers can get more than 6% in assistance if using Home Start, Smart Buy, or Home Ability. However, they won't allow you to use this program if you already own something else and won't be selling it before closing. So this has got to be then your only property once you buy this house. Another thing is that the more assistance you get, usually the higher interest rate, usually ticks up marginally, the higher the program that you go get. Then this has to be a primary, aka owner-occupied residence. You can't buy this with the intention of renting it out right away. Then another thing is that you can't have a large chunk of change set aside after closing. That means no leftover liquid funds to your name combining for over 20% of the sale price after you close this. They don't check your retirement funds for this, but they do check your savings, checking, stocks, and other liquids. We set closing for this in about 40 days. Industry standard is about 30 days, but this takes a little longer at times because once we approve you, we have to send our approved file to the state for them to approve it on their end, and only after we both approve it can we then close for you. This does have an income limit. You can't have over $154,800 worth of annual combined qualified income on the application. That's for 2022. And one final thing is that you do have to take and pass a test on your homeowner knowledge, but only before closing. That's not required before you apply or even before going under contract. Now, if you have any questions, call me, email me. My contact info is at the front of the video. It's why I do these videos. I want you to watch these to learn and then eventually engage with me at some point so that we can get you into your dream house. So thank you for watching. Please subscribe to the channel and keep watching, and do yourself a favor and watch my first playlist, Guiding Your Mortgage, Learn Mortgage in an Hour. If you want to learn the mortgage process, that's where you go to start. It's going to teach you everything that I would want to know if I didn't know any of this stuff myself. It's about an hour long and chopped into 3 parts, and there's tons of other great videos up on the channel aside for that when you're done with those. So thanks again, and I hope to see you there.